much, Mary. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. You all are ready for a marathon of a day, I'm sure. There are so many good sessions that are planned, and I just appreciate you joining mine this morning. So we're going to talk about reputation and why that's so important, and what qualifies me to be sitting here talking to you all today. Aside from where I am, let's talk about where I've been. I've been in the industry for 19 years. I have been primarily in affordable housing. I started in conventional and moved to affordable, affordable family, affordable senior, worked a little bit in military. This is my 10th year here at Apartment Ratings and Satisfax. So I am all about online reputation, what it takes to make sure your residents are satisfied, how to make the most out of your team performance. So really focusing on ways to be efficient and productive on site, as well as marketing, because when the teams are doing all of this hard work and the reputation is looking great, how do you celebrate that online? One of my closest industry friends actually is a risk manager for an affordable portfolio. And I ran this session by her because I've never worked with risk managers before in terms of reputation management. And I was like, just kind of tell me, do you think I'm on the right track? And she looked through the presentation and she's like, yes, yes, all of this, yes. So I think the information I'm going to present today is going to be helpful for you. I encourage you to ask any questions that you have. Mary is going to be moderating the questions. And if there's something that pops up that's, pretty appropriate to what I'm talking about, we will address those questions right then and there. So what we're going to cover in this next hour, why your online reputation is so important, just why reputation in general, and why you should take it seriously, and why you should work with your teams to take it seriously as well. We've seen over the past years in our industry a lot of what not to do. So I'm going to go over that as well. And I think that's right in your wheelhouse, making sure that, the on-site teams are not risking, any kind of penalties, any kind of violations. And what happens if they do kind of cross those boundaries or cross those guidelines? And then you're going to walk away with a 90-day plan. How to start on this road to reputation in 90 days. So I'm going to break down 3 action steps that you can do over each 30-day period. So I want this to be very interactive. And this is something that's kind of tough to do when you're at a virtual conference. But if you have your mobile phone, have your phone next to you, I want you to go to slydo.com and enter in the code 333120. We're going to be taking 3 polls during the session. And again, this is a way to just get audience participation. I want to pick your brains a little bit and see kind of, where you are and where you stand when it comes to reputation. So we're going to launch the first poll. Again, you want to go to slydo.com and type in 333120. So let's imagine you are in the market to buy a new car. What is your first step in the process? Again, you want to go to the car poll on slydo.com and type in the code. So you are in the process of purchasing a new car. What is your first step? What's the first thing that you guys do when you are searching for a new car? And I have some people saying that they research online first. Okay, we'll take that. Let's see, anything else? Okay, some people are asking friends and family for advice. I like that. Remember, they have some good knowledge as well. You go to a car dealer, go straight to the car dealer and check out the cars. Anybody apply for financing first? All right. Ooh, these are coming in fast and furious. All right. I'm going to do a quick 3, 2, 1, countdown, and let's close out this poll. So we have 67% would first start online. 25% ask friends and family for advice. Here's the interesting thing about that. We've been doing a study since 2011 called the Online Renter Study. We do it every other year. And for 2011, 2014, and 2017, friends and family was the number one step in the process. I'm going to talk to friends and family about where to live, any recommendations that they may have. Well, 2019, it completely flipped and it went to my first step is going to be online, researching online. So those of you who would start out your car search online, you're really no different than what just new consumer behavior has to say. According to Bright Local, they did a study last year. 83% of consumers that they surveyed said they started their buying process for a new car by searching online. Everyone's jumping behind their computers, right? You're getting behind the computer. You're trying to gather as much information as you possibly can, which is exactly what's happening when someone is looking for an apartment. So there's 4 steps to the apartment kind of search process. And this is why reputation is going to be really important along the way. So first things first, someone wants to look for an apartment home. They typically start out with a generic search term. Apartments in Orlando, 2-bedroom apartments in Orlando, cheap apartments in Orlando, apartments in Orlando close to whatever the highway is, but they're very generic. Very rarely is someone going to get behind their computer and type in a specific community's name. It's just very generic. Similar to if you were going to buy a car, you're going to type in kind of the model of the car, but you maybe won't type in the dealer right away. It's just kind of, Toyota Corolla 2022, something like that. So here's the second step in that process. Google calls this the 0 moment of truth, ZMOT. It's all about the information that they gather online, the research phase. So John, he typed in his generic search. He starts to narrow down his options based on all of that information that he collects online. So during this 0 moment of truth, he's looking at a community's website. He's looking at an ILS, and an example of an ILS would be apartments.com. It's an internet listing service where they have multiple apartments that you can search through. They're looking at photos, virtual tours, even checking out social media. We're going to get into that in just a bit. And most importantly, the online reviews. So that's step number 2 in the process. Now, based on the information that John has gathered online, this is where he's going to start venturing out. This is where he's going to call, make appointments, want to visit certain communities, because what John is looking for right now is a balance. All of the information that he found online, he wants to verify that that is true in real life. So think about this. Think about how the websites are designed, the photos, any kind of information that can be found online. Is that true in real life? We call this living up to the online hype. Are, all the things that he thought in his head that were true, is he going to be able to see them for himself? When those 2 things are in sync, that's when John feels very confident to say yes. I saw the pool online. The pool looks exactly the way it does in person. I saw the home online. It looks exactly the way it does in person. The email communication that I received from the person that I was working with was very professional. It was very welcoming. And that's the impression that I got when I met with this person online. So all of that has to match. When it matches, that's when you're going to get a yes from John. Now, John decides this is the place I want to live. I'm going to move in. So beyond the first moment of truth, we now have step number 4 in the process, which is called the second moment of truth. So John, as a resident, his interactions with maintenance, his interactions with the office, with his neighbors, how are things going in his apartment home, just his overall experience is going to impact another renter's zero moment of truth. And the reason that I say that is now John has an experience to talk about online. He can give it a 1-star, a 3-star, a 5-star, and then kind of tell his story. So that review now factors or now plays into someone else's zero moment of truth. It all works in a big cycle. So we're going to do our second poll. I'm going to go ahead and launch it just so we have that going. Going back to the poll, we want you to look at the reputation poll and answer the following questions. Which have you done? Have you used online reviews to help make a buying decision? Have you written an online review? You've done both, or you haven't done anything. I haven't used reviews. I haven't written a review. You're just kind of out there, maybe just making your own decision. So have you written an online review? That's all I've done. You've used online reviews to make a decision. That's it. Or you've done both, or you've done nothing. All right, these are flying in. This is so exciting. I love these live polls because I know you guys are out there. You might be drinking your coffee, might be waking up a little bit, but we definitely have you participating. So thanks so much. All right, so we're looking at a pretty even split. Either you have used the online reviews or you've actually used them and written an online review. I think that's fantastic. So those of you who are in this group, this 97%, here's what you're contributing to when it comes to online reputation. There are 2 important keys when it comes to online reputation. First is that zero moment of truth. This is what's called social proof. These are all of the people that are writing reviews. So those of you who have written a review, you are contributing to social proof. As a social group or as a society, as a group all together, you are sort of giving the thumbs up or the thumbs down. Now, what social proof does, social proof acts like adult peer pressure in a way. It's like when enough people say something, or enough people are voting for something, enough people are like talking about things, the social proof pushes someone in a certain direction. So let's go back to your car. You're searching for your car that we talked about in the very beginning, and you really want this Toyota Corolla. I don't even have a Toyota Corolla. I'm just saying it because it's the first thing that pops into my head, but you're searching for this Toyota Corolla and you get to see these 1-star ratings, the 2-star ratings. You're not really seeing a whole lot of like, yes, you need to go buy this car. The ratings itself are making you feel a little bit shaky. And you're just sort of like, is this going to be the best deal for me? Well, here's the second part of the keys to reputation. It's the wisdom of the crowd. So it's the actual stories that people are talking about. And those of you who have written a review before, you have contributed to the wisdom of the crowd regarding a certain product. So whatever it is that you've written a review for, you're a part of the wisdom of the crowd. And these are the actual words that are being said in that review. So it may be a 1-star, rating, but the words might be, they denied my application, or I tried to make an appointment and no one would call me back. May not have anything at all to do with the actual car itself. So when you're looking at, in terms of like the star ratings, you also want to pay attention, or people also pay attention to the wisdom of the crowd. What are those stories saying? Now, if the wisdom from the crowd are those resounding echoes over and over again, this car breaks down consistently, or this car has no power steering, or you guys can tell I don't know anything about cars, but it's whatever it is that they're saying. If they're echoing those sentiments over and over again, that's how you know that it's not just about the star rating. The wisdom of the crowd is actually saying something else. So, excuse me, when we're talking about the on-site reputation or the reputation of a community, the reputation of a management company, you have to look at both of those as sort of like bookends. The social proof would be the star rating, right? Is everyone voting yay or nay? And the wisdom of the crowd, what are those experiences actually like? And noticing from the poll, you all, majority of you are contributing to both the wisdom of the crowd and social proof. So the most important factors when it comes to an online review regarding that Bright Local study, number one is the star rating. And we're going to talk about what a good star rating is. It's not a 5.00. Does not have to be perfect. Actually, a perfect 5.00 works against you. So for your teams, number two is going to be important: legitimacy of the review. How did the review come to be? Is it an honest, authentic review from a verified person who has firsthand knowledge? Or is this one of those anonymous reviews, a fake review, a review that was written by an employee, things like that? We tend to see those sometimes when the teams are very concerned about how their online reputation looks, and they tend to kind of go overboard. They want to dump a bunch of 5-star reviews on their Google page just to get those numbers up, when that actually is going to work against them and can violate a few policies in the process. Recency: how recent should an online review be? And we'll talk about that. And the sentiment: this is where that wisdom of the crowd is coming from. Are people giving a 5-star review and saying, I love it? Or are they giving a 4-star review and explaining why they just could not give a full 5-star review? And then quantity is the number 5. This is the least important in terms of what what consumers are saying they want to see. So you don't have to flood your Google business page. You don't have to flood our apartment ratings page with tons of 5-star reviews, tons of reviews in general. You really want to look at the rating, the legitimacy, the recency, and the sentiment of the review itself above anything else. So what is a minimum rating that a business needs to have? Notice here that you have only 12% of all the people that were surveyed by Bright Local saying that they require a business to have a 5-star review before they'd even consider buying from them, working with them. That's really impossible. Like, let's be honest, right? We're all human. No one's perfect. That 5-star, that 12%, they're going to be looking for days to try and find someone who has a 5-star kind of experience. And more often than not, if those 5 stars are not legitimate, that person is going to be very disappointed, because again, they're basing their decisions kind of on the wrong thing. So here's the sweet spot. The sweet spot, you need to be about 4 to 4.5 stars. For us at Apartment Ratings, what we're finding is 4.4 is the kicker. 4.4 gets the most action in terms of generating leads, in terms of getting people to want to contact your community. When you hit that 5-star, it actually dips down. So about 4.4 is our sweet spot. I would even say a 4.3 would work. You definitely don't want to be anything lower than a 4-star review, because again, you're going to have the wisdom of the crowd on your side to talk about the things that are really great about the community, because the social proof at a 3-star is just not there. So that's going to be kind of tough. If you keep it a 4.3, 4.4, you tend to be right there in the pocket with what motivates renters. We did an interview or webinar with an attorney from the FTC. The recording is available on our website at satisfax.com. I encourage everyone to watch this webinar. It is completely free. Share it with your teams. Get them to really understand why it is important to be above board when they are capturing reviews, when they are asking residents to write reviews. The FTC is not playing around, everybody. They will not only fine your company, but they will monitor your company for up to 20 years. That means at any point during that 20-year period, they can just Google you. They can just check you out. They can just see what's been happening. And if there is another violation that's found during that time period, even heftier fines are going to be leveraged. And I know you all may be familiar, but a couple of weeks ago, the FTC sent out letters to 700 companies warning them about the fake reviews that they have found on these companies' websites, on their Amazon accounts, on their Google business accounts. Like, they are seriously cracking down. So an incentivized review, this is considered anything that brings compensation to the person who's writing the review. So if teams are doing raffles and contests and they're giving gift cards, might even be giving like a rent credit every once in a while, apartment upgrades we've seen. There are apps where they can leave a review and get like 1,000 points, and then they can redeem those points for something else. Any kind of compensation is an incentivized review. Now, the FTC does not have a problem with incentivized reviews unless that incentive has not been disclosed inside the body of the review. So the person who's writing the review has to literally put something like, I am writing this review in exchange for 1,000 reward points through this app or, through this service. I'm writing this review to participate in the gift card giveaway. Now, the thing with disclosing an incentive, as soon as someone reads that, they are going to immediately write off the rest of the content of the review, especially if the review is positive. Because again, what are the chances someone's going to leave you a 1-star review if they think it's going to jeopardize their opportunity to get a gift card or reward points or rent credits? Now, let's say the renter forgets or doesn't know that they need to disclose this incentive. The onus falls back on the management company. So in the body of the response, you have to respond to the review, and you'll have to say, thank you so much for this 5-star review and participating in our gift card giveaway. Again, once that incentive has been disclosed, whether that's by the renter or by the management company, it is completely going to negate the credibility of that review. And that review could be 100% honest. I mean, straight up, this person loves their community, but once a reader sees that, and remember, they're in that 0 moment of truth, they're collecting all of their information. Once they see that, they're not going to pay attention to anything else. So we recommend just no incentives, none whatsoever. We have tons of best practices, tons of ways that you can get verified, authentic, legitimate reviews without having to offer any kind of incentive. I'm happy to share that with you guys if you want to connect with me. Deceptive reviews, these are things that are like written by employees, or if there is someone You ask a friend to write a review, or a manager asks a vendor to write a review. Anyone who does not have firsthand knowledge of actually living at the community. If there was an employee who lived at the community, or a vendor who lived at the community, they can absolutely write the review. They just need to disclose that material relationship. I've been a resident here for 5 years. I also work as a landscaper for this community, or I also work in the leasing office. They have to disclose that material relationship. So violations happen when there's no disclosure. So if your teams are going to offer incentives, as risk managers, I would probably send out an all points bulletin. Like, we're not going to do that anymore. But if they feel like they have to, because their residents just aren't going to, engage and aren't going to do it on their own, just be mindful of including that disclosure in there. That's so important to include the disclosure. Review gating. This is also considered a deceptive practice. And believe it or not, you all as consumers have probably been review gated in the past, maybe even as yesterday, if you've gone shopping, or if you bought something online. This is where you get an email and it just says, hey, tell us how we're doing, or tell us how was your experience. And you get to answer one question. Maybe it's on a scale of 1 to 10. Maybe it's a yes or no. Maybe it's a 1 to 5 star, but it's pretty much just one question. They kind of want to do a quick little temperature check on you. And if you answer in the affirmative, the positive, things are very great, you're going to be taken to a screen that says, would you like to leave us any comments about your experience? Those comments that you leave will automatically be posted as an online review, automatically. It's an online review, whether that goes to the company's website, whether that goes to Google or Facebook or Yelp. It doesn't go to apartment ratings. I can tell you that. We don't allow this review gating, but it's going to go somewhere. It's going to turn into a positive online review. Now, if you rate your experience negatively, you do a thumbs down or you give a 1 star, it's just not a great experience, you're still going to be asked for your comments. You'll be taken to the exact same screen. Any comments that you'd like to share about your experience. However, those comments do not show up as an online review. Those comments are going to get redirected back to the company, who will probably reach out to you, want to know a little bit more. How can we fix the problem? What can we do? Is everything okay? And let's say you respond and you work with them and they fix the problem. Then they will ask you if you want to leave a review. Now, where the problem lies is that redirection. If they redirect the comments and the corporate office reaches out to you and you never respond, you never get in touch with them, you never give them the time of day because it was a 1 star experience. I don't want to work with you anymore. I don't want to do business with you anymore. That's it. You're never given a chance to write a review. So the review gating, there are a lot of companies out there that will tell you, we can get you more Google reviews or more positive reviews, more Yelp reviews, more Facebook reviews. They'll tell you that this is the way to get more positive reviews on your website or on a social media site. Somewhere you're going to be able to have more positive reviews. That redirection for a negative experience is the violation when it comes to the FTC. And so they kind of try to tell you, oh, well, we redirected and you can solve the problem and then they can write another review. But it falls back on the consumer to actually get in touch with you in order to be able to continue in the process. So that's the violation. Again, if your teams are working with any companies that are saying, we can get you more reviews, if they are, if these companies, these services are saying, this is how we do it, look for that little that little change in the process with a negative review. Someone who has a negative experience, if their comments are redirected back to the company, redirected back to the corporate office, if their negative comments do not immediately turn into an online review, as with the positive, that's review gating, and you want to run away from that. I mean, that's a big, no in terms of the FTC. When these reviews, fraudulent reviews, incentivized reviews, deceptive reviews are found, it's mandated. Companies have to inform consumers. The top screen or the top little block, that's our word of caution. That's what we put on an apartment community's apartment ratings page if any of these violations are being found. The one down at the bottom is Yelp. Yelp has that as well. So any kind of like violation, any kind of like crossing the line, we have to block that content. That's part of the FTC guidelines as well. Google has the same, TripAdvisor, Yelp, the Better Business Bureau, all review sites have to follow this certain policy and issue consumer alerts when any violations are being found. We don't want to do that. We have less than, I think it's 0.3% of all, or 0.03% of all the communities that are on our website have this consumer alert, but our abuse team does find them from time to time. The shelf life of an online review. Remember, we were talking about recency. That's the third most important. 85% of consumers said that it needs to be less than 3 months. If once it gets older than 3 months, 90 days, we're just not really paying attention. And the reason why is that in this business, there's so much change that happens. There could be a new management company. There could be a new manager on site. The person that wrote the review 6 months ago no longer lives at the community. So everyone's kind of in that 3-month range. So you want to, capture new content, new reviews. And again, there's a lot of ways that you can do that and kind of keep that funnel moving without resorting to those incentives and those, kinds of, deceptive practices, if you will. Mary, before I move on, I don't see any questions. Do you see anything on your side?
I am not seeing anything as of now.
Okay, perfect. And everyone, I'm here. I'm here for any questions that you may have. I'm hoping so far the information is helpful and kind of turning on some light bulbs for you and ways that you can kind of communicate this information down the chain to your on-site teams. The Consumer Review Act, this is an act that was passed by Congress. It bans the use of gag clauses, so you cannot prevent someone from writing a negative review. You can't retaliate against someone who writes a negative review. This is kind of part of review gating in a way. You're kind of like rerouting, or you're not able to let someone just freely say what they want to say. It also makes it illegal for companies to have standardized provisions that threaten to penalize people for posting an honest review. Now, we know that there are going to be residents out there, we've seen it time and time again, that their reviews are, out of anger, they're retaliating against the property management company or the community that they live at. They're leaving reviews on 5 different websites. They're just kind of doing a copy and paste all over the place. That's not what this is about. You can definitely report all of those reviews. So each review site has a mechanism for you to report or flag that review so that their security team, we have an abuse team, can take a look at it. You can also add in there, the URLs for that exact same review that's on all of these other websites. So those kinds of things can be taken down. We're not here to penalize any management company for a resident who wants to retaliate against you. We've seen that sometimes there are clauses in leases Or there's an addendum to a lease that says you will not badmouth me on social media. If you do, I will fine you $1,000 or I will sue you. Not only when it comes to management companies, we've seen restaurants do it. We've seen, all sorts of businesses do it. But in terms of our industry, we can't have it. No clauses, no addendums, nothing hidden in the lease that says you will be fined, we will charge you X number of dollars if you decide to post a negative review. There's a management company actually that has been fined twice. They have been found in violation of the FTC twice. And each time, hefty fines. I'm not sure why it still kind of happens, but they had in their lease, it was a short-term rental kind of situation. And that was part of their agreement, their buyer's agreement or their renter's agreement that they had. And each time they were fined. So there are a lot of cases out there, a lot of judgments. If you go to the FTC's website, feel free to take a look. But again, they are really monitoring, to make sure that companies are complying with the Consumer Review Act. And companies are also in complying with their guidelines against incentives and deceptive practices. So all of that is very, very important to make sure that your teams are aware of, just kind of what to do, what not to do, those things. Again, the recorded webinar that we have with the FTC, completely free, available to everyone to take a look. And again, this is coming from Yelp. Yelp, they have those consumer alerts as we do. This is a different kind of consumer alert. This is one that happens when a company has been found to kind of overstep or violate the Consumer Review Act. So there's one for deceptive, incentivized kind of reviews. There's another one that goes along with violating the Consumer Review Act. And all review sites are doing this really to protect themselves. If we do not make consumers aware, if we do not catch these things as we can, or we're not monitoring these things, it could have, a pretty bad effect or impact on our business. So we're really on top of those kinds of things. Okay, here's the last poll. And thank you guys so much for participating and joining. The last one we're going to talk about is with, it's called the review poll. So I just want to know, if you click on yes or no, would one negative review impact your buying decision? You're looking at all these reviews and you just see one. There's just one out there that would impact your buying decision. So let's say a company has 10. They have 10, you see one that's negative. So 90% are positive. Would one negative review impact your buying decision? All right, man, these are coming in fast, fast, fast. I think the coffee is kicking in right about now. Okay, I'm gonna close this one out. So 79%, 84%, okay, are saying no, it would not impact. 65%, and there's more on this group than what Bright Local got out of their survey, but 65% said that one negative review is not enough to make them decide whether or not to buy. So again, the negative reviews, I call them your best friend, honestly. I actually have classes. Negative reviews are your new BFF because they do add credibility. Readers, we all read reviews, or those of us who read reviews, we're realistic, and your renters are as well. They already know why they want to live at a community. They've gotten all of that from the photos, from the floor plans, the website, the pricing, they've gotten all that kind of stuff. They're reading negative reviews for the why not. So if someone says, man, this place is so noisy, there's children running everywhere. If I have children, that might be a good thing for me. Or someone may say they garden, super early in the morning, and I just can never get sleep and the lawnmowers are going everywhere. Well, you may have someone who works overnight and doesn't come home until, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning. That's okay for them. So if these are outliers, if these are things, again, not part of the wisdom of the crowd, it's just one person's experience or something that doesn't necessarily impact anyone else, has very, very little impact. You can have a couple of negative reviews, and if they're each talking about something different, this one person's talking about lack of parking, another person's talking about people don't pick up after their pets. It's not the wisdom of the crowd necessarily, so this may not really impact someone else's decision. Negative reviews, like I said, add that credibility. If it's all positive, it's going to bring about skepticism. Like, there's no way this place can be 5-star perfect 100% of the time. It also empowers your positive reviews because, again, people are going to look at those things as outliers. And how your teams respond to an online review gives them an opportunity to really show themselves off. So in our online renter study, we asked, how does it make you feel when a staff member responds to a review? The number one most chosen answer, they have great customer service. So if your teams are responding, the perception is they have great customer service. So flip side, how does it make you feel when they don't respond? Number one most chosen answer, they do not care about their residents. And we know for a fact, again, I've been in this business almost 20 years. Management companies, teams on site, they do care about their residents. No one's just punching a clock, or the majority of us aren't just punching a clock. I'd say less than 1%. You're in the business because you're that people person. You want to help your residents. So we don't want to sabotage that by not responding. Some best practices for responding: if it's a negative review, you got to show action. What are you going to do about it? We see a lot of please contact us. We'd love to know more. When the person has already told you all there is to say, you want to respond to the person who's reading the review and not the reviewer. The reviewer has left the building. They've given their opinion. They've talked about how, they're not happy. They're not coming back to see whether or not you respond. The reader, though, is going to get that perception of customer service. How do you respond to that review? And anything negative, we recommend using personal pronouns. I, me, I'm so sorry to hear this has been your experience at our community. Things like that. Take it personal. If it's a positive review, it's kind of the opposite. You want to demonstrate gratitude, how thankful that they've gotten a positive review. They want to respond again to the reviewer this time and not the reader. Even though the reader is going to be looking at how they respond, the message should be going straight out to the person that wrote the review. And they want to use plural pronouns. So the we, the us. This review made our day. Things like that. They want to really make sure that they recognize the differences that make a difference. So we have a review here that was written in someone's preferred language, Spanish. The response, great response, but here's an even better response. You want to kind of meet that writer where they are. Meet the reviewer where they are. And there's a lot of ways that your teams can do that. And I know depending on the market, depending on the community, we have multiple different types of languages that are spoken on site. Really important to translate that response into their preferred language. And this response actually was written by our review response team. We have a team that responds to all reviews. And this is one, like, if your teams are busy, they just don't have the time, or that they're just not going to make the time, something to consider. We can write all the reviews for you. And this team is it's my team. I lead this team. So we can definitely help with those kinds of things. You want to respond within 48 hours max. That's important. Look at this response. It came almost a year later. And at the bottom, it says, remember to stop by this weekend and see so-and-so at the Rents Due Thank You breakfast. That resident may no longer live there. So it kind of doesn't really work for that one. Again, respond within that 24 hours, and that's a guarantee that we have. We respond within 24 hours to all of the reviews, but you want to make sure that those reviews are getting responded to quickly. My recommendation, if it's a negative, same day. If it's a positive, up to 48 hours. That's kind of, general. You don't want a negative review to sit too long. You don't know how many eyes are on that negative review. Some things to avoid, I call it don't take the bait. If someone writes an anonymous review and the team members know this is Mrs. So-and-so in apartment 123, we don't want them to call out Mrs. So-and-so in the review. Just don't call the resident out. Again, this can kind of even be seen as sort of retaliatory in a way. We don't want the teams to use corporate speak, is what we call it, where it's like per section, blah, 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 paragraph X of your lease, because the person who's reading the review, they don't know what that lease looks like. They don't really know what's happening. And again, not taking the bait. You don't want to, seem like they're coming across as retaliatory at all to the resident. This again can violate a lot of things. You never know when a response can actually open the door to a fair housing complaint. So those responses have to be very thoughtful. Those responses have to be tailored to the point where there is no doubt that there's no violations happening. So the 90-day plan, the first 30 days, we recommend just do a Google search of the community. Type in the name of the community, look for those echoes. What does the social proof look like? You want to find a way to gather feedback from existing residents, because that's going to help move forward. How do we move forward in fixing the things or concentrating on the areas that might be those pain points? Because again, if you get enough people talking about the same thing over and over again in a negative way, that doesn't help in terms of the wisdom of the crowd. 31 to 60 days, you want to implement those strategies based on the resident feedback. So if you're hearing your top 3 complaints from your residents, slow maintenance, parking, the office, if you hear those kinds of things, whatever your top 3 echoes are as you're gathering this feedback, you want to put in some strategies, some plans to address those kinds of things. You want to monitor the team's performance to make sure they've righted the ship, they're headed in the right direction, things are going a little bit better, and monitor obviously the goals that you're giving them. So setting a plan is going to be really important, and monitoring how that plan, how that strategy is going. And then in 90 days, that last little bit, we're going to start to see the tide turn. You're going to see more happy residents. You're going to see more residents who are grateful, thankful. Let's cultivate that. This is where you start gathering the wisdom of the crowd, and the crowd should be on your team's side by now. Encourage the residents to write about their experiences. Again, we can help you with that in terms of, not using incentives, feedback, Satisfax, which is our survey arm. We do tons of, 1.3 million surveys so far this year. So we can definitely help in that regard as well. So all those kinds of things are going to be important to put your teams on the right path in terms of a reputation. There's no need right now to go out and try and get reviews. We need to first determine what would those reviews say. So let's determine the pain points, determine the things that are going well, map out those plans to kind of minimize the negative, amplify the positive, and then that's when you can go out and cultivate that gratitude. If you decide to outsource your reputation, meaning hire services that are going to do the work for you, they're going to respond to reviews, they're going to monitor your online reviews, make sure that they know who your company is, your brand. This is all about congruency, because remember, when people are looking during that 0 moment of truth, they're looking at a website, they're looking at an ILS, they're looking at social media, they're looking at online reviews. Are all of these things in the same voice? Or does it look like one person handles our website, one person handles our social media, we have a different person who's responding to our reviews? All of that needs to speak to your brand. You want to have full oversight of the content. So remember, making sure that, if there's any violation in terms of the FTC, the onus is on your company and not any service provider. So the service provider that might be review gating, your company will get penalized, not the review gating service. Someone who's writing your responses, if they take the bait, if they open the door to a fair housing violation, they don't get penalized. They don't get fined and a judgment. That happens to the company, to you all. So make sure you have full oversight of that. Any responses, they want to be customized, no templates, no bots, no repeats. And again, the negative guaranteed to post within 24 hours. You don't want that stuff sitting out there. Here's an example of an outsourced response. This one says that the management is unprofessional. Nobody speaks to you. You get ignored. The only thing nice about it is the location. The response says, thank you so much for your feedback. We appreciate it. This isn't your voice. We want to know if this complaint was brought in person, would you respond the same way face to face? Probably not. Ignoring the concerns. This is what's called finding the negative inside of the positive. So someone leaves a great review, but if there's a however, I'm concerned about the recent break-ins. There's no mention of that in the response. If there's a negative inside of a positive, they want to acknowledge that because it looks like they're going to ignore the problem. Again, that's important to someone who is reviewing. And all this is saying is, I'm so happy we provided you with a positive experience, but this person's concerned about the break-ins in the area. Outsourcing fails, again, templates never work. Here's a template that was used 4 months ago. We regret to hear that you have a negative experience. Okay, fast forward a month ago. We're disappointed to hear you have a negative experience. And then again, another month, we're disappointed to hear you have a negative experience. All of this is exactly the same. Copy, paste, copy, paste. And remember, people are looking at not only the star rating, which is social proof, they're looking at the wisdom of the crowd as well. So if the crowd is complaining and they're getting the template, Autobot, copy, paste kinds of things, just detracts from the level of customer service. Automated responses, they are going to ruin the perception that your team is professional because of digital technology, how things stream from one platform to another, there's going to be things that are going to look very amiss, just not professional at all. And then ignoring concerns. Again, you don't want to ignore any concerns. We have people who go back and forth multiple times to write reviews, and we don't want them to get the exact same response each time. So this person moved in, wrote a review in August, got the exact same response as when they wrote a new review in October. And in both of those reviews, they expressed concerns, and those concerns did not get addressed. Outsourcing done right, again, I gotta brag a little bit, but this is why it's so important. Demonstrating action, showing that pretty much we care, or you care, your company cares, and speaking in your company's voice as if the person who wrote the response works at your company or works on site for you. All of that is really important. And as I start to wrap up, again, I'm not seeing any questions coming through, but we'll open up the floor. If there's any last questions, any final things you want to know, I only have, I think, one more slide left. So feel free to jump on in with that Q&A or the chat. Remember, social proof is all about that zero moment of truth. Reviews, your reputation, all of that impacts the research process. So as renters are gathering things, this is their opportunity to narrow down their options. And if the online reputation for your community or even your company is not a positive one, you're not going to be in that narrowed list, right? They're going to go look somewhere else. The wisdom of the crowd is that second moment of truth. These are all the storytellers out there, all of us who have written reviews before for a restaurant, a product, a movie, you name it, an apartment community or an apartment home. This is all based on our experiences. Were they good? Were they neutral? Were they negative? But the wisdom of the crowd creates the overall sentiment. Those two are the triggers to get someone to continue or want to move to your community. And you want to protect your reputation. So important. And as risk managers, I know a lot is going to fall on your shoulders when things are, don't go the way they should, or when there's certain violations, or where there's a fair housing complaint that's filed. So the teams avoid those incentives, those deceptive practices. They want to respond with a personal point of view. Again, any kind of response that comes across as retaliatory, condescending, anything that's in a negative, again, don't take the bait, could not only upset the person who wrote it, it can impact the perception of customer service for anyone who's reading the response, and it could potentially get someone mad enough, get the reviewer mad enough to file a fair housing complaint. And if you outsource the reputation, you want to make sure that you're monitoring, you're managing those third parties. You have full oversight as to what's happening. You have veto power. So if they're posting a response and you don't like it, or you feel like it's just not appropriate, you have the opportunity to edit that, and you have the opportunity to make it a better response. Okay, so Mary, I think, I got 5 minutes left. Any questions or comments out there? I'd love for you guys to put in the chat box, like, one of your major takeaways. Is there anything that was an aha moment for you? I'd love to hear that. Mary, are we seeing anything? I don't know if I can see my chat. I think so.
Yes, I have it up. I am seeing a couple comments, extremely helpful, which I completely agree.
Thank you.
Let's see. I appreciate the learning about the management of feedback, the government reviewing and oversight. Great insights to advise about proactive management of virtual markets.
Yes, you guys have a tough job. Let me tell you, I hear some stories from my friend. You guys have a pretty tough but super important job. One of the most important jobs when it comes to managing projects, communities, companies. I mean, it's pretty big. So I just appreciate you guys letting me be here today.
I'm not seeing anything else come in. So with that, Leah, thank you so much. That was excellent, very informative. I also just want to thank everyone for joining us today for this first session. As a reminder, more information is available on the vendor page. That direct link has been posted into the chat as well. And our next session will begin in, let's see, a little over 10 minutes. So thank you, Leah, again so much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your conference, and I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.